The fact that they just decided to reveal it to me at the time that they did was just the ultimate stab in the back. That it was just inhumane. It was like, I knew just, this is not normal. This is not nice. This is horrible. This video may get emotional. In today's video, you guys, we're going to talk about contrast, conflict, trauma, and basically how to use that contrast to better explain what you are currently going through. And more importantly, how to use that contrast to better your life, to basically level up, go inward, and see what you need to improve in your life. And then allowing that contrast to get you to a point of such enlightenment that you're able to appreciate and value the contrast. Okay, so when I am making these videos, I am not here to simply just regurgitate different things that I've read from books or seen on videos. I am here to inspire and to help those who have possibly gone through similar situations, and for them to see how they can use this type of conflict or contrast to actually work for them. Okay? So the only way that I can best explain how it worked for me is to discuss and talk about what actually happened to me. So I have to, and I can only go by my personal experiences, okay? And that is not to just lay out everything that has ever happened to me in my life. It's just simply for anyone out there who needs to hear the message of how you can come out of it on the other end a better person. Okay, so if there's anything in the video, one thing that either resonates with you or you can relate to, hopefully you'll give the video a thumbs up. If you know anybody who you know this could impact them or affect them, or these are some inspirational words that could possibly help them, motivate them, or inspire them, please share the video. Okay, so my experience with this contrast and how I use this contrast to basically turn into this like new me. What happened to me was I had invited someone into my home, okay? And when I invited that person into my home, it of course was from nothing but a loving place, wanting to help them out. I'm usually that kind of, motivational person by nature, just always wanting the best for someone and how can I help you, and things like that. So it wasn't, uncommon for me to allow this person to come into my home and live with me. Okay. So as this person is living with me, I'm starting to see things about them that I'm being really kind of judgmental on, right? I'm kind of like, oh, this person drinks way too much. This person is, basically an alcoholic. I'm not saying this. I'm thinking it though. If we're just going to be honest, I'm thinking this. I'm thinking, oh, you know, this person is like gained weight, and you know, they probably need to lose some weight. I'm watching what this person is eating, and I'm like, you know, thinking again to myself, oh, they know they should not be eating that. That's not going to do anything for them. That's going to make them gain even more weight and all this stuff. Judgment. So then it came to a point where this person had just along the way was doing, you know, things that I was starting to notice that were very either, you know, intentionally and deliberately trying to be hurtful towards me. But I was just like, you know, trying to ignore it and know they didn't mean that, and you know, this sort of thing. Well, it eventually got to a point where it came to a head where, you know, this person was, you know, I finally had to get to a point where I was like, okay, it's just too much, and you need to leave my home. Like, you can no longer live here. And so they left, okay? And so when they left my home, the last blow up event, I was still just traumatized by it. And as I've mentioned before, that I have a tendency to just kind of have what people would say is a thick skin. You know, let it roll off your shoulders. It's not a big deal. I was kind of raised that way, if I'm being completely honest. I was raised in a way that I was always told, you know, don't be sensitive, which I never was a sensitive person, but I was always kind of raised that way, that you shouldn't be a sensitive person, and you know, don't let words hurt your feelings, and you know, oh, just get over it type of thing. Just get over it type, you know, it's no big deal. You know, other people in my family could have easily had a situation and they were allowed to, like, you know, cry about it. You know, it was a big deal. Oh, what happened? But I was kind of raised differently in a way that it was like, it's no big deal. It's not a problem. You know, get over it. And so when this huge contrast came into my world, even when they were gone, I still kind of had that mindset of, am I overreacting? Is this a big deal? You know, questioning myself, you know, should I say this? Should I not say this? Should I be mad about this? I know down in my heart that what just happened to me, what was just revealed to me, what was just told to me is absolutely insane. It's absolutely absurd. I know that this person who revealed this to me had been holding this for years, and that the fact that they just decided to reveal it to me at the time that they did was just the ultimate stab in the back. That it was just inhumane. It was like, I knew, just, this is not normal. This is not nice. This is horrible. But even after they left, I was still thinking, get over it. The way I was raised. Get over it. It's no big deal. You know, buck up. Let it roll off your shoulders. But it was such a huge contrast, I was unable to do that this time. That's what I had done in the past. When things would happen to me that I knew were horrific and unfair and unjust, I would have other people around me saying, it's not that big of a deal, get over it. So that's what I attempted to do with this last huge conflict, trauma. I attempted to try to get over it, let it brush off my shoulders, no big deal. But I couldn't. it was just too big. It was just beyond pink elephant in the room. It was just too big. It took up so much of my mental headspace. It was overwhelming. I mean, to the point where it was like I was having to make a decision on whether or not to get police involved, whether or not to get other people's families involved. Like, it was a lot on my shoulders, and I was just like, I don't know how to freaking handle this. It was huge. It was just huge. And so I wasn't, because of the hugeness of it, because of the severity of it all, I could not just brush it off my shoulders, pretend it didn't happen, act like, oh, it didn't exist. I wasn't able to do it. I wasn't able to just say, it's no big deal, and move on with my life. I couldn't do it. So this is why I say this incident was probably the most traumatic thing that had ever happened to me in my life, just simply because I was, for the first time in my life, unable to just brush it off my shoulders. It just stuck with me day after day after day. I was dreaming about it. It was just horrible. Contrast. Trauma. I wasn't using the words contrast at the time. It took me a long time to get to the fact that I was being traumatized. It took me a long time to say, this is something very traumatic that's going on in my life. I wasn't even using those words. I was still initially in a point of, should I really be this mad? And this thing was so ridiculously crazy that anybody, my significant other, everybody was like, that's horrible. And so it took me a minute. It took me to actually go to therapy before I realized I had a huge, major traumatic event, and I didn't know how to deal with it, right? So I get to the point where I now, through therapy, was able to realize that this was a traumatic event and that I need to deal with this. This is not going to be a brush it off your shoulder, get over it type of thing. I'm going to have to delve deep, and I'm going to have to deal with this. And that's what I did. I went through my therapy sessions. I learned a lot. It was a lot of soul searching. It was a lot of learning how to love myself all over again. Learning how to forgive myself, forgive that person. And I went through it. As I was going through it, and different things started changing in my life, it wasn't until months later that I realized that this person who I thought, there's no way. Initially, when this all happened, I had so much anger. So much anger, resentment. I was just in a really bad way. And then I had gotten to a point where it was almost like the skies opened. And it was like a revelation of, okay, we got it. We got it. I remember saying to my therapist, well, what if this? And what if that? And what if this happened when I was there? And what if, and then he finally said to me, what if it all happened? All these worst case scenarios that you're coming up with. All these, well, I wonder if that, and you're trying to go back in the past and trying to figure it out, knowing you can't change it. You can't change anything about what has already happened. He said, what if it did all happen? He said, I'm not trying to belittle what you went through because it was a big deal. That's a lot. I couldn't imagine if that happened to me. He said, but you reliving that, how's that going to help you today? What if it did all happen? Let's deal with that. Now what? It was the now what part that changed my life. It was the, okay, now what? Statement / question that really just made me stop and think and look inward and say, now what, Tracy? You can't do anything about it. You can't change anything from the past. And how much of this do you want to interfere with your present and possibly your future? How much of this do you want to take into your future? How long do you want to go on with this? How far in the rabbit's hole do you really want to go? And then I realized this contrast that came into my life. It was not even about me. As far as what they were doing to traumatize me, as far as the different things that were being revealed to me by this contrast, it wasn't even about me. Well, sure, they actually thought that and intended for it to completely break me down. And it did, temporarily. Until I got to the now what statement, question. And that's when the lights just all went off. Just like, no, I'm not about to let this person, this contrast, continue to have me in this extreme stressed out state, having me on different medications because I'm so freaking stressed out. It just came to me. I am not about to let somebody else control my emotions and how I feel. I'm not about to let somebody else and their nonsense dictate my future. That was the next step. Went from anger to, no, I'm not going to let this person keep me in this dark space. No, I'm not going to do it. Can't do anything about it. Then I got to this next step of, and this was like, weeks in between each other of going from these different steps. Then I got to this next step of, I was coming from a place, and the more I was looking inward, the more I was able to see I was coming from a place of complete judgment. How could they? How could they do that to me? How could they? And the more I started going inward, and the more I started releasing the judgment, the more I started saying, we've all made mistakes. The more I started looking at myself out of a lens of just self-love and forgiveness, the more I could love myself and love and forgive myself, the more I was able to just, it was like just a pop. It was like, it just popped. It was like the more that I could love me. And I know this probably sounds like counterproductive to you guys, but you have to experience it. You have to practice this. You have to try it to understand what I'm saying. The next time you are faced with some kind of conflict or contrast, after you get past the anger, because you have to get past that first, release it and let it go. You have to do that first. But then when you get to this point of going inward and saying, I choose me and I choose to be happy. That was me saying, I'm not going to let this nonsense dictate my future. The more I kept saying, I choose me. I choose my positive, abundant future. The more I kept choosing me, the more I kept loving on me, the more I kept forgiving myself, the more I was able to just open up. And it was like the lights went, they just all went off, and it was like the more I could forgive that person, the more I could just love that person, the more I could just forgive this person for things beforehand I thought were absolutely unforgivable. But I was able to just genuinely, authentically just forgive that person because I was able to forgive me. The next step, you guys, the next level I got to with this contrast, this is when you get to a point of where you really are, you just have ultimate love. You're not just saying it, you literally mean it. You have ultimate love because you got this ultimate love for yourself. You then start having this ultimate love for everything and everyone. You just have love for life. You are just become so grateful for everything and everyone and every experience you've gone through. I know. You become grateful for the contrast. I was sitting and thinking about the timeline of it all. From the moment that this contrast was presented to me, thinking about all those judgmental thoughts I was having about the contrast, that person. Thinking about when it all blew up. Thinking about the timeline of when they moved out. Thinking about when I went to therapy. And thinking about when this new Tracy started to evolve. And I literally, you guys, was like, oh my God. It was beyond, like, the word epiphany seems insufficient. It was like, oh my God. If it wasn't for that person coming into my life, coming into my living space, causing all of that contrast, causing all of that trauma, chaos, and confusion, if it wasn't for them, oh my God, none of the changes that have occurred to me would have ever taken place. This one, you guys, it was just like beyond powerful. It was, and the love that I had already had for this person, even after this, the forgiveness that I had already given this person, this was beyond that. It was now, thank you. I know. It's like, I know you guys are thinking, you're thinking about a person who has wronged you. You're thinking about your arch nemesis. You're thinking about your greatest enemy. And you like, Tracy, are you trying to tell me that I can get to a point where I can love that person? I'm telling you, yes. 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 Because you're not just loving their physical body self. You love them for what they brought you through. You actually are loving them for what they brought you to, then through, that then made you this better person. Yes, you can get to that point. It literally was so overwhelming for me, you guys, that I was like, even as I think about this right now, I get goosebumps because it is so emotional for me, because it's so real, but it is so true. And the tears are not tears of sadness. They are tears of complete joy, of the awakening, of getting to a point that you can love everyone and appreciate all experiences. All experiences. Getting to a point where you go, when I was in it, I didn't see it. But getting to a point where you go, but because of it, my life changed. My life changed because of them. Because of all that conflict and trauma. Because of all of that conflict and trauma, you guys, I was able to see that I didn't really have a lot of self-love. If someone would have asked me that before, I would have said, of course I love myself. You know, I take care of myself, I pamper myself, I'm very confident. That's never been a problem for me. Anybody who knows me could tell you that. I was equating self-love with confidence. Or I was equating self-love with, no, I wouldn't let anybody trounce on me. I wouldn't let somebody just abuse me and stick with them. I'm not that type of woman. But that's not what it is. Self-love is about really unconditionally loving yourself. Not judging yourself Forgiving yourself. Truly loving yourself, not being so hard on yourself. Understanding, realizing, and accepting that you make mistakes. And it's okay. You don't need to beat yourself up about it. Let it go. And once you get to that level of complete unconditional self-love, then you can then love. You can then love other people that way, unconditionally. Because you love yourself unconditionally. This contrast changed my life. It's not to say that I've never had conflict in my life. It's just that, as I mentioned before, the way I dealt with contrast and conflict in the past. Ignoring it, brushing it off my shoulders, acting like it didn't happen, acting like it didn't exist, acting like it was no big deal. Because of the way I used to deal with the contrast in the past, it never allowed me to stop and turn inward. This particular contrast did that. And once I turned inward and started loving myself, forgiving myself, I then wanted to love myself externally as well. I then, when I started looking inward and saying, stop judging yourself, forgive yourself, love yourself. That's when I started to realize that this contrast that moved into my space, that I told you guys I was mentally thinking all these thoughts, judging them, I was judging myself. I was judging myself. When I was looking at that person and saying, oh, they drink too much. They shouldn't be drinking all that, drinking every day, drink, drink, drink. I was judging myself. I was internally saying, you drink every day, Tracy. You drink too much. When I was looking at that contrast and saying, you're overweight. What are you eating that for? Shouldn't be eating that. You don't do that but make you gain more weight. I was judging myself. I was saying those things to myself. Watch those people who love to judge other people. Watch them carefully. They're judging themselves. I know. I lived it. The reason why I know for a fact that I was judging myself was because one of the first things that I did when I had this awakening was I had a strong desire to no longer drink. I had a strong desire to want to lose weight. Two things I kept judging this person about. I was judging myself. Contrast. That contrast coming into my life changed my life. Changed my life. Not just with the alcohol, giving up alcohol, not just with losing a lot of weight. I'm talking about the inward change. That's the most significant one. The way I view life. The way I see life, the way I see people, the way I love people, the way I appreciate people, and I appreciate every day. The way I appreciate every experience I have. The only way I know to appreciate that is because of that contrast. You can get to the point where you appreciate the contrast. You appreciate what we would call a bad experience, because we know That bad experience got us to this better place. But you got to be able to get to that point. You got to be able to recognize it, see what it is, know it for what it is. Don't stay in that dark place too long, because you stay in there too long, you just going to be in a depressed state. You can go from anxiety to just full on deep depression. You can't stay in that place long. You got to pick yourself up. Ask the questions. Now what? Can you change the past? How long you gonna let this linger in your life? How long you gonna let this linger in your headspace? How long are you gonna let what this person did keep you in this negative place? You have complete control over that. How long are you gonna let them control your emotions and how you feel every day you get up? How long are you gonna let and allow that person in that contrast to do that? And the quicker you can bounce back and get out of that state of darkness and depression and can come back to, I see this for what it is. And I was brought to this and taken through this for a reason. And my goal is to find out what the reason is. Contrast will allow you to see in yourself what you desire and what you want to do. That contrast allowed me to see what changes I wanted to make for me. Had that contrast not been around me, I don't know, would I have ever started asking myself some questions like, how much do you drink? Well, when's the last time you've been on the scale? According to the stats, you overweight yourself. Like, if the contrast wasn't here, would I have started asking myself those questions and start looking at myself? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think I would have just kept going on like, I'm good, I'm fine, everything's fine. That's the kind of appreciation you can give for contrast. Now, when I say you can get to a point of loving everyone and everything and appreciating those not so nice or bad experiences, traumatic experiences because of what they brought you through, I by no means am saying that just because I love everyone and everything that I can be around everyone and everything. If you guys can see from any of my past videos, I don't push that at all. That is one of the major differences, probably from some advice that you would hear from other people. I don't push that at all. Because once you get selfish and you learn to love yourself first and you choose you first, along with that comes, I forgive you, I love you. But along with that comes, I don't allow anybody, I don't allow anybody into my personal space that does not serve me. I have gotten very good at discerning who serves me and who doesn't. I refuse to stay in a place where I'm going to do this back and forth with you. Arguing and bickering. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I love you. But if you don't serve my soul, this Tracy, this new Tracy, this awakened Tracy, I have to love you from afar. I thank you for the contrast that you brought because of how it changed my life. I thank you. And I thank you for me seeing and evolving into this new me. So if you guys have ever had a very difficult experience and were able to come through it, and not just come through it, but then truly forgive and love the person who brought the contrast to you. And definitely, if you've ever gotten to a point where you've been able to thank them for the difficult experience, to thank them, truly thank them for it, because it made you a better person, I want to know. Let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.